Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Board of Commissioners meeting, October 7th, 2024. I would like to call this meeting to order. And just before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to do a moment of silence. A moment of silence for all of those that have been devastated out west with the storms and also the tornadoes down east in Rocky Mount. So just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now we have pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Miles.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we will have the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. School recognition is Miss Gianna. She here? Okay, all right. There she is. Today we're recognizing from Wakeland Elementary School, Gianna, outstanding 5th grade student. She shows up for school every day, ready to give her all. When it comes to character traits, she has many positive ones. Gianna conducts herself with integrity and kindness, always willing to assist her classmates. She demonstrates a strong work ethic and positive attitude. Her willingness to help with and handle tasks efficiently has made her a great asset to our office assistants. She is a dedicated student, and she is proud to celebrate her success. She is an exemplary role model for her 5th grade level peers. She is a student leader and models what it means to be a Wakeland Bulldog. Gianna has served as school safety patrol leader, and we are proud of her and delighted to have her at Wakeland. She is one of a kind. The town of Zebulon recognizes Gianna of the Wakeland Elementary School for being an outstanding student and a role model. This day, October 7th, 2024, signed by Mayor Glenn L. York. Oric Our recognition for our teacher is Mr. Kenneth Warwick. He is a phenomenal 5th grade teacher. He is the current 5th grade team leader, and he also serves as the school leadership team. Mr. Warwick goes beyond our expectations when bringing instructions and the love of learning alive for his students. His engaging lessons, class projects, and love for the kids make him the best combination for an amazing teacher. Mr. Warwick's positive attitude and positive work ethics are contagious. He always looks for ways to assist with school-wide implementations. He plans weekly instructional and engagement opportunities for our students to learn. Mr. Warwick does a superb job supporting his team and teachers with 5th grade level initiatives and math instructions. He is amazing, and we are lucky to have him as a Wakeland teacher, leader. Town of Zebulon recognizes Mr. Kenneth Warwick, Wakeland Elementary School, for going above and beyond and being a phenomenal 5th grade teacher and school leader. October 2nd, 2024, signed Mayor Glenn L. York.
You brought his own team. I
I
love it.
like it.
Next, we have several proclamations. I have asked for some assistance from a couple of board members. Let's see. The first one is Commissioner Harrison.
Proclamation, Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month and Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. Whereas pregnancy and infant loss is such a common occurrence, and whereas many North Carolina parents and families have suffered a miscarriage, a stillbirth, or the death of an infant during delivery or shortly after birth. And whereas the town of Zebulon wishes to acknowledge the profound grief experienced by families who suffer the death of a baby. And whereas increased awareness of the causes and impacts surrounding pregnancy and infant loss may lead to greater understanding, support, and resources in communities across Wake County. And whereas the town of Zebulon acknowledges the need to increase the awareness of pregnancy and infant loss and honor the experiences of families. And whereas today we honor and remember the pregnancies and infants lost and recognize the devastating impact on their families and loved ones. Now, be it therefore the Board of Commissioners of the town of Zebulon do hereby proclaim the month of October as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and October 15th, 2024 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day in the town of Zebulon. Remember to encourage parents, caregivers, and all residents to become educated in opportunities to prevent pregnancy and infant loss and support bereaved families when prevention is not possible. Adopted this 7th day of October, 2024, Glenn L. York, Mayor.
Thank you. The next proclamation is Fire Prevention Week. Commissioner Davis.
Proclamation, Fire Prevention Week, October 6th to 12th of 2024. Whereas the town of Zebulon is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the location where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires killed more than 2,700 people in the United States in 2022, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 360,000 home fires. And whereas roughly 3 out of 5 fire deaths happen in homes with either no smoke alarms or with no working smoke alarms. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to the danger in in the event of fire, in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And whereas Zebulon residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home. And whereas Zebulon residents will make sure their smoke alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory and physical disabilities. And whereas Zebulon residents should test smoke alarms at least once a month. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive the fire. And whereas Zebulon first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas Zebulon residents are responsive to public education measures and can take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work for You, serves to remind us of the importance of having working smoke alarms in your home. Now, therefore, the Zebulon Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th of 2024 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this state, and I urge all the people of Zebulon to make sure their homes have working smoke alarms and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Zebulon's fire and emergency services. Signed, Glenn L. York, Mayor of Town of Zebulon.
Next, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, Commissioner Baxter.
Proclamation recognizing October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Whereas National Cybersecurity Awareness Month emphasizes making cybersecurity a shared responsibility and empowering our community to protect their digital lives and promote safe online practices. And whereas the town of Zebulon relies on digital information systems to support essential functions, emergency response, and public safety services. And whereas advances in technology bring increasing threats of cyber attacks that can cause financial losses and privacy breaches. And whereas education and collaboration enhance our cybersecurity posture, encouraging vigilance and proactive behaviors to prevent cyber incidents. And whereas the town of Zebulon is dedicated to identifying, preventing, and responding to cyber attacks to protect sensitive information and ensure operational continuity. And whereas, as we observe the 21st anniversary of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we recognize the progress in cybersecurity education, the need for ongoing vigilance, and the professionals protecting our digital world. And whereas the town of Zebulon joins the nation in recognizing October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners of the town of Zebulon does hereby proclaim October as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month and encourages the residents of Zebulon to stay educated on how to protect their sensitive information in this digital world we live in. Adopted this 7th day of October, 2024, Glenn L. York.
Thank you. Public comment. The public comment period will be no longer than 15 minutes, with each speaker having 3 minutes to speak. No speaker can speak on public hearing items that would be needed to be discussed under closed session. Speakers cannot speak more than once during the public comment portion of the meeting and cannot give their time to another speaker. If there is more than one person who wishes to speak on the same topic, with the same point of view, it is recommended that they pick one person to speak on that topic. If there's not enough time for all the speakers to have an opportunity to speak, not able to speak, those will be the first to speak at the next meeting the following month. And I think we have a few that signed up. And first is Mr. Steve Baxter.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. My name is Steve Baxter. Been a resident of Zebulon for over 16 years, and I currently reside at 314 South Arundel Avenue here in Zebulon. in light of the recent events that we've had going on in Western North Carolina and Tarboro, there is, it's not just recent, it's currently happening. I thought it might be good for me to share some resources that we have here in Zebulon for those people who are in need. My wife, myself, my children volunteer at a couple of these different resources. One is the United Methodist Church. They have a Meals on Wheels program, and you're able to contact the church and get signed up for Meals on Wheels. It's great for shut-ins, just elderly, people who just don't have the ability to gather, create, cook food. The other one, another one at the United Methodist Church is we have a food pantry. The food pantry operates on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 10:30. They will, all people have to do is go and sign up, and they can show up and they'll be given a box of food that should help get them through. We also have a baby pantry at the United Methodist Church. So there's formula, diapers, clothing, shoes, all the things that an infant would need. There's an additional resource once a month on the third Saturday is the, let's see, I gotta put my eyes on here. It's at the Boys and Girls Club. It's the Bread for Life of America. Usually that starts somewhere around, I would say people need to be there around 8 o'clock because the line gets very long. There's usually a couple of big box trucks of food, and they will pass out food until it is gone. That is a very good resource. And I was hoping that we might be able to post that on the town website, maybe? I can provide the information, and we'll hopefully be able to put that out there. And that's pretty much all I had. I just wanted to make sure people had the opportunity to find resources if they need it. We don't want our community going hungry. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ernest Campbell.
Evening. About 3 years ago, I spoke to this same board about a project that was being planned for my area. And at that meeting, I became aware of what was going to be happening because of the construction that was going to be going on in that area was going to affect me on my property and was going to dump more water down on my situation. And as a result of that, it has caused my driveway to get washed out numerous times, which the highway department, and I think the city came out one Sunday afternoon to do some repair work. I couldn't get in my driveway, I couldn't get out of my driveway, and I had to walk to the road for someone to take me to the doctor or wherever I need to go. And I have some pictures here of some recent flooding of my yard. And as a result, the water coming down is bringing more sand down in my area, and there's a buildup on my side there. And as it get heavy rain, it's bringing more sand down in there, and it keep pushing the sand further and further down the stream. And as a result, there is a pipe that runs up under my driveway to drain the water from my left side of the road. Because of the high water and everything, it backs up in that pipe, and a lot of sand is in that pipe, so that water can't drain from the left side of my road, and it's caused some problem when I have someone to come and cut my grass. He ain't able to get in my yard and do the yard work that need to be done as a result of it. And I have some pictures here, and you can see, I would leave with you, you can see the pictures of what it's doing to my yard. But as a result, I've had numerous washouts of my driveway. And like I say, the highway department have been out there and worked on it, and the city had been out there a couple of times and worked on it. And I've been dealing with this for about 30 years right now, and it's very aggravating when I can't get out or someone come in to take me to my doctor, my appointment where I need to go. And I'm very disappointed as to what's going on here.
Thank you, sir. You leave those pictures with the clerk. Thank you. Next, Miranda Todd Harrison. Yeah, this one, please. This one.
Hello, good evening, Mayor York and Commissioners. My name is Miranda Todd Harrison, and I am the trustee of the Todd Protection Trust at 934 Barbie Street, where my family has owned that property for over 100 years. I am here to see if there is any consideration or forethought in the planning ahead in terms of resources that may be needed for the current residents as these projects around town are coming up, new housing developments, and how it could affect the existing property owners of being priced out of affording their homes. And so I would like for the commissioners to seek out information or look at some neighboring towns who are further along in their developments and just see if there's anything that we can do to stop the potential gentrification, which we see is on the potential with these properties that are coming into our community, because there are many people who have made Zebulon home, who are the bedrock of this community, who are looking around and getting deeply concerned for what the progression is going to be and how it's going to impact them. And so I would like to ask that you all please consider these community members because they want to stay in their home and they want to continue to be a resident here. Okay?
Thank you. Next, Scott Carpenter.
Mayor York, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Harrison, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Scott Carpenter. I live at 214 East Horton Street in downtown Zebulon. I have a couple of brief points I'd like to bring before you this evening. First, I'd like to thank those of you that attended Zebulation last week, Mayor York, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Miles, Commissioner Davis. It was great seeing you there. It's always good to be in company where we can enjoy things together. Second, I'd like to talk about the town agenda and minutes. The agendas seem to be coming out later and later and later. Today's agenda for tonight's meeting, could not find it this morning. I just noticed it a couple of hours ago. It's 326 pages. I have not had a chance to read it cover to cover, which I usually like to do. If there's anything we can do to get that information out sooner, I assume you get packets. I don't know if you get the same packet. When your packet comes out, we can get that out for citizens to read as well. That would be very much appreciated. 5 days would be what I would ask. It would give me enough time to read through that. Why do I care? Why is that important? That brings me to my third point, the Board of Adjustments. Thank you for appointing me to the Board of Adjustments. I feel that as a member of that board and with all of the many, many things going on in Zebulon right now, it's very important to be aware of what's going on, to be able to review that information in detail so that I can formulate questions or comments that I may have. I'd also point out that the minutes on the website, I can't find a lot of minutes. The last time I saw minutes updated was back in May. The Parks and Rec Advisory Committee has put a couple of minutes out there, but there's a lot of blank spots out there, so it's kind of hard to follow along. As far as the Board of Adjustments, I was told that we would receive training in September. That hasn't happened. There's a couple of vacancies on that board. We need to work hard to get that board filled out completely. I understand there's a couple of new members on the board recently, and I've heard from them that they will not be onboarded until we get a new planning director. I don't know when that's going to happen. These are very important things going on in Zebulon. I would ask if there's anything you can do to help move that along more quickly. Let's find members, let's get that training done, and let's get the members that are on those boards onboarded. There seems to be some delays going on, and there's just so much going on in Zebulon. We can't slow things down. We actually need to speed things up. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anyone signed up to speak through email or electronic?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we will move to the consent. We need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Presentation, schools and communities. Communities and schools. I can't.
Excuse me, today I didn't know I was bringing. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited to be able to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. Honorable Mayor York, CIS alum, Ms. Harrison. Really excited to be able to share with you about communities and schools of Wake County. Whether you know it or not, we are in your community at Zebulon Middle School. So I'll just give you a little bit about who we are. So we are part of a national organization that you may have heard when Mackenzie Scott Bezos was being very philanthropic. Communities and Schools nationally was one of those organizations that was gifted. Communities and Schools of Wake County was not, but nationally we were gifted. We also have 18 affiliates here in North Carolina. CIS Wake is the one that we represent, but there is of Greensboro, of Chatham. There are lots of different partnerships throughout the state. We were incorporated here in 1990, and ironically, one of our inaugural schools was Zebulon Middle School. And so always really great to be able to come back full circle and really talk about how we can make those connections. I too am a CIS Wake alum. Very excited about being able to lead this work, and I've been able to do that in this role since 2018. I've been with the organization for my entire professional career because it's that important to me. So when you look at our vision, mission, and theory of change, really it's to surround students with a community of support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. And we all know that that path looks very different from student to student, from circumstance to circumstance. But I really want to share the secret sauce of what we do, and it's the fact that we are not just a program. Programs don't change students, relationships do. And so it's really about building those relationships with students and all around within their ecosystem to ensure that we can have more Giannas that can be successful in the classroom. Ultimately, what we want to do is really help amplify all voices, because unfortunately all voices are not amplified. And that's a DEI statement that we really stand beyond, because we know that students, as well as the people who are working with them, bring unique talents and gifts to every scenario, and how do we make sure that everyone can really amplify their presence? We have an RTI certified model of integrated student supports that we customize for every community and every school that we're in. And basically we want to focus on what we consider the ABCQ plus P. And that's the attendance, their behavior, their coursework success, college aspirations, or career aspirations. And you can't do any of that without having strong parent engagement. And so all of these components are really where we step into our light and really help make those connections on behalf of students and the schools. So in 24, 25, the year we're living right now, we currently have 7 school sites within the Wake County footprint. We have 4 community sites, and typically those community sites are going to be our extended learning after-school programs. Those are all in public housing communities in Raleigh. But then we do also have 2 after-school programs in schools, and that's East Millbrook Middle School and Neuse River Middle School, so not too far from here. And so in those after-school programs, it's really about creating opportunities for extended learning for students, because guess what? I don't know if you all have checked the rates for tutors lately. It's very expensive, but we want to make sure that we can employ certified educators to help augment these spaces to help support the students and fundraise to ensure that that cost is never an issue. So currently we do all this great work with 12 full-time people and 25 part-time staff, and the 25 part-time staff are all certified educators, either recently retired or still active in the school system. But right here in Zebulon, we have this rock star right here who is also a CIS alumni, right here on the screen, Miss Aisha Riley, who worked with our organization for now 3 years, but she's currently at Zebulon Middle School making positive impacts there with a caseload of 50 students, but then also seeing if there are other ways that she can help support the greater school climate. We also coordinate things such as just connecting resources. So this summer, we dropped off, I think it was 80 book bags. We split them evenly between Zebulon Elementary as well as Zebulon Middle School. We can't do that work without having great connections within the community. I know that there are many, many, many great people who are doing great work here, but this young man right here is a rock star social worker that you have in this area. And I know that he works alongside with others. I just know him directly. Amazing person. And just being able to make those connections with people who are authentic to the area is something that we prefer to do versus trying to go in and figure it out ourselves. Go to the source and work with the resources that are always there. Some of our key initiatives are, we have our Success Coach program, which is really where we place someone in a school that is there for the whole academic day, for the entire year, and helping students navigate those things that come up. So in addition to, and in partnership with school support teams, we work with those students and social workers. We work with those students to be additional agents of care and accountability in the building. Extended learning, of course, again, is providing those academic enrichment and case management things for students. Our Pathways initiative is really focused on college and career readiness and post-secondary success. I don't know if everyone in the room knows this or not, but like college isn't the only vein, right? And so our Pathways program is designed for it to be their path, their way, and helping them navigate to getting to what makes them successful. And then also, how do we galvanize the greater community, right? There are great people who may know exactly what to do, like I think the first speaker. There are great resources right here in Zebulon, but if people are not aware of that and people want to be involved, how do we help make those connections? One huge opportunity that we have right now is CIS nationally has an opportunity. This is the 3rd and final cohort of this opportunity. It's called Scaling for Success. And so basically there was an investment by Steve Ballmer. Anyone like the LA Clippers? I wouldn't admit to it either. Okay, so the LA Clippers, as well as Microsoft, a little thing called Microsoft, he also has made an investment at the national level because he wants to see the CIS model replicated in more Title I schools. So that would place a success coach in that school or schools for 3 years. He's asking for matching funds. And so my role and our role as a local affiliate is to go out and make sure that we can show the 50% match that he's willing to do. He's sitting in California watching those Clippers. He's sitting in California and he's saying, I have the money, just show me the match, and you have it for 3 years. And so what we want to do is to make sure that we can replicate our model so that we can reach. Ultimately, my goal as the lead of this organization is that every student would have the access to a CIS person, program, and process. And so there's just so many different ways that we want to work alongside with the greatness that is already Zebulon. As a former resident of 20 years of Zebulon, yes, I left when I was 5. I love to see the growth. I also understand the pains of what that growth is. And if there's a way that we can help on the education platform and also coordinating resources, we would love to do that. So I encourage you to follow our work on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and our website is listed here. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
He didn't introduce him, that's all. Is it possible to introduce your people with you? Could you do that real fast, if you don't mind, please?
I am sorry. That was selfish of me because these people outshine me. This is Mrs. Dewan Turnich. She is our Senior Director of Programs and Operations. What that really means is the nuts and the bolts. How do we make sure that our people are doing what we need to do for the best positive outcomes for young people? Gary Haley is a superstar social worker that is from Zebulon, but I would say, not from, he's here. He's not from here. Gotta be safe because we don't claim everybody, right? Hello. It's still home. It's still home. But he's a social worker that was once on the CIS staff, and then he ventured back to the social work space. And so we still work very, very closely because, again, relationships are really at the heart of everything that we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business, planning, 545 West Barbie Street rezoning. Kate?
Commissioners and Mayor, you guys saw this item at the joint public hearing back in September. So I'm just going to do a quick overview, and then I'm here as well as the applicant if you have any additional questions. So 545 West Barbie Street, Ordinance 2025-09. So the following standards are applicable for any of the rezoning cases that you see, but I'm going to go through them real quickly. So whether this project meets the health, safety, and welfare guidelines, whether this is appropriate for its location in which it's being proposed, whether it's reasonable and within the public's interest, any other relevant factors that you as a board want to see. The property, so they're asking for a rezoning of a portion of the property at 545 West Barbie Street. The applicant is CSD Engineering. The property owner is Ralph Rojas. The acreage is 0.31 acres, and the current zoning is suburban residential, R2. Proposed zoning is for heavy industrial. Public hearing. So we already had the public hearing, but this is just reminding you that we did our proper notification for that hearing. The current zoning is that R2 zoning, and they're asking to be rezoned to heavy industrial, which you can see in the gray. The future land use shows this site as being suburban residential, which means that it's residential in character and would be, as reflected by our future land use map, would be single-family homes. So again, I'm going to go over these standards, so whether this project meets the health, safety, and welfare guidelines, whether it's appropriate for its location, whether it's reasonable and in the public's interest, and any other relevant factors. So Planning Board, they unanimously recommended, and this is their recommendation as written, approval for RZ 2024-03 for the portion of 545 West Barbie Street, finding that the standards of section 2.2.25.j have been met and the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Staff cannot recommend approval of ordinance 2024-09 for 545 West Barbie Street, finding that the standards in section 2.2.5.j have not been met, as the request is not consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. So this is due to the fact that our future land use plan shows this as being residential. But as discussed, it is up to the board to determine whether this change should be made. So I'm here to answer any questions, as well as the applicant is here if you would like to call him up to ask any questions.
Does anyone from the board have any questions? Commissioner Baxter?
So the planning board is not, or the planning department rather, is not recommending it just because it is actually not consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, because our future land use plan has it as residential. But because it is adjacent to the heavy industrial zoning, that is why really we're being asked to consider it, because it is directly adjacent to that heavy industrial parcel, correct?
Yeah, and just to touch on that a little bit, so whenever we're facing any rezonings, especially if it's not consistent with our land use plan is a helpful tool for kind of guiding us. It was set forth by some of you Board of Commissioner members and some previous members as kind of a guide for planning to look at and see. But that's not the only thing we're looking at, especially when we're looking at cases like this, where it is near other like zoning. So that's another factor in your decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any of the board members? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Go ahead and recommend, or move rather, that we approve ordinance 2025-09, the 545 West Barbie Street rezoning.
Second. There is a motion and a second. Any questions, comments from the board?
Commissioner Baxter, just for clarity, I'm all for paraphrasing too, but for this
I'm
purpose-
not, it is not consistent with our comprehensive land use plan, and so I don't feel comfortable using this sample motion. I would like for us to move forward with it, but it's not consistent.
And that's fine. You can adopt the rezoning finding that it's not consistent, but for the other points of the discussion, that it's in the best interest to adopt the rezoning.
All right, so I will say I hereby move to approve ordinance 2025-09 for the rezoning portion of 445 West Barbie Street as presented, despite it not being consistent with a comprehensive land use plan.
Section.
Section 2.2.5J of the UDO.
And for clarity for the board, if the board acts on this, then it amends that land use plan. So you don't have to do anything different.
Correct.
The adoption of the zoning ordinance will amend that plan.
Need another second to the amendment?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to the amendment. Any further questions from the board? Comments? Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter?
Favor.
Commissioner Miles? Favor. Commissioner Harrison? Favor. Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Davis? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, 800 Shepherd School Road, RV Park.
Good evening. You'll be hearing a lot from me tonight. But again, this one you had also seen at the previous joint public hearing. And with this being a little bit of a larger project, I will kind of go a little more in depth, but the applicant is here and has their presentation if you would like to call them up to give that presentation. And they're also here to answer any questions. So the following standards are applicable to this project: whether it meets the health, safety, and welfare guidelines, whether it's appropriate for its location, whether it's reasonable and within the public's interest, and then any other relevant factors. And then as well, because this is a planned development, we are looking for a development that is better than the strict interpretation of the UDO standards. So the property, the applicant is Longleaf Law Partners. The property owner is Roger Honberrier. The property address is 1800 Shepherd School Road. It's 35.4 acres. The current zoning is suburban residential R2, and then the proposed zoning is for a planned development. So public hearing, again, this was for the public hearing that happened back in September, but I just wanted to keep this in here to let you know that notifications were sent out. Site conditions, so currently it's an undeveloped site, previously used for agricultural uses. The current zoning is residential suburban R2. And the future land use, very similar to the last map you just saw, is suburban residential. The first review was submitted back in March, and then the TRC meeting was actually held in May. I'm sorry for that mistake. The second review was submitted back in July, with a comment letter going out at the end of July, and then the joint public hearing happened the hearing packet was sent out the 12th, and then I think the hearing happened on the 16th of September. So concept plan, so they're providing a mixture of RV campsites as well as some yurts and glamping campsites. So this is their overall site plan. Some considerations, so the permitted uses that they're asking as under the plan development are for a campground and for recreational vehicle parks. Last time you met and discussed this project, you brought up the want for more spaces at the trailhead, and the applicant has provided 2 additional spaces to that, and they're here they'll probably touch on that a little bit in their presentation or within their questions, but I did want to note that change. Road connection, so the internal drive will be connecting to Logan Creek Drive and have a Knox box for life safety access, but there will be no connection from Logan Canyon Drive as proposed in these plans. So the buffer of Shepherd's Park, so currently they are showing a modified type D buffer, and what they mean by modified is that they are going to be incorporating some mature trees along that line to kind of help with that buffer rather than tearing them down and replacing them. But I did want to note that because I do know that residential properties back up to this property, so buffering is important in those cases. Road improvements, per our comprehensive transportation plan, this road is slotted to be a 2-lane median divided road. The applicant is proposing that build out as part of their plan development. Building architecture, so the main building on site will be this amenity center, which will also serve as a check-in site for the campsite. And so it mocks a lot of the similar architecture to other amenity sites or residential amenity sites that we see in the town of Zebulon. Utility allocation, so with the utility allocation policy, the project starts with base points and has to make it up to 60 points. And so this being hotel, motel, or other accommodations started with 40 points and made up the additional points to get to 64 points. So again, I'm going to go over the standards real quick. So whether this meets the health, safety, and welfare guidelines, whether it's appropriate for its location, whether it's reasonable and within the public's interest, and then any other relevant factors. And then as well, with this being plan development, better than the strict interpretation of the UDO standards. So the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval for CZ 2024-03 for the rezoning of 1800 Shepherd School Road, finding that the standards of section 2.2.25.j have been met and the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Staff cannot recommend approval of PD 2024-03 for 1800 Shepherd School Road, finding that the standards of section 2.2.25J have not been met, as the project is not providing public cross connection to Logan's Creek Drive and Logan Canyon Drive. So the applicant is here if you would like them to present on their project as well. If not, we can skip to the question section.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Jennifer Ashton with Longleaf Law Partners. I'm here tonight on behalf of this project. I also have with me our development team, Roger Honberry, who's the owner of the property, and then his son-in-law, Ryan Rimley. I'll be happy to do a quick condensed version of our presentation just to give you all some extra facts to remember us by. I won't do the whole thing, but we're happy to answer any questions you have afterwards. So as Kate mentioned, this is a rezoning for 1800 Shepherd School Road. And is my presentation on there, Kate, or no? Is this, okay. Oh, gotcha. It is. Thank you. It confused me for a second. Thank you. So just some quick run through here. As Kate mentioned, we're about 35 acres. We're currently zoned that residential suburban, and we're asking to go to a planned development to do a recreational vehicle park and campground. The nice thing about this master plan that we're presenting is it really is locking us in. It gives the town a good view of what we're proposing to do, and if we want to do anything substantially different than that, we'd have to come right back to you and ask for permission to do that. So this gives the town assurance that what we're proposing is actually what's going to go in the ground. Our existing conditions on site, we are close to the intersection of Shepherd School Road and Old Bun Road. You can see the property outlined in red there. It has a beautiful existing lake in the middle of the site, and then there's a smaller lake to the northern portion of the site as well. Both of those two water bodies are being preserved as part of this development. Just to give you guys a little more lay of the land here, this site does come with some unique natural features to it. We have Beaver Dam Creek to our north, and you can see right there where we have the floodplain, which is in blue, and the floodway fringe, which is in pink. And then we also have an existing City of Raleigh sewer line that runs through the northern portion of the site. Our development team was very careful when they were planning out this site not to disturb a good portion of those areas up there, except for that addition of the new Greenway Trail for the town. I didn't have these in my last slide set, but Roger was kind enough to provide them to me. This property is gorgeous. It's beautifully landscaped, and the goal of this project is to preserve the natural beauty that's there. So we wanted to give you all a little sense of what guests to this project would be looking at if they stayed with us. Go through this too much. This is just our current zoning map, current future land use map. The comprehensive transportation plan does have Shepherd School Road eventually becoming a 4-lane divided highway. Currently it's only 2 lanes, and we're going to be doing our part as part of building out half of that roadway along our frontage to make it that new 4-lane divided. We're also going to be adding a new extension to the existing Greenway Trail, which ends currently at the Shepherd's Park subdivision. We're going to be extending that Greenway Trail along the northern portion of our site, all the way to Shepherd School Road. We're also going to be adding a major trailhead. And as part of Commissioner Baxter's request at the last public hearing, we have added 2 additional parking spaces to that trailhead. So now there will be 4 spaces in total available for general public use at all times, as long as the Greenway Trail is open, and one of those will be an ADA accessible space. Kate showed this slide earlier. This just gives you a breakdown of the different campsites we're offering. 85 campsites in total. 50 of them will be RV spaces, and the 35 will be a series of what we call yurts. I'll show you a picture in a minute. Then we have glamping sites where we'll provide the tent and you bring your sleeping bags. And then finally we have what we're calling the primitive tent sites, which is you bring your own tent, and we'll provide a platform for you and picnic table. I do want to highlight here, this shows you the right-of-way improvements that we're going to be making along Shepherd School Road to get our portion along our frontage to that 4-lane median divided. And also this shows you the revision to the plan to add those 2 extra parking spaces towards the north of the site by the caretaker's residence. And again, all 4 of those spaces are available for the general public's use. There is a walking trail from that parking lot up to the new Greenway Trail extension. These are quick examples of what I mean by a yurt. That's in the left-hand corner. It's like a little hut that you can stay in for those of us that are not as comfortable sleeping in a tent on the ground. And then we have the glamping tents, which we'll provide on this site. And then finally, the bottom picture is for those of you that like to bring your own tents to camp. So there's a good variety and good price point for people. So this site would be available for everybody that wants to experience camping. I won't spend a lot of time on these. These are just the floor plans for the different campsites. One thing to note about these is for the RV parking spaces, there will be ADA accessible RV parking spaces. And then also at the individual campsites, there are ADA accessible picnic tables. Another great feature of this site, we're adding a ton of internal walking paths. All of those walking paths are also ADA accessible throughout the site. So guests who need that assistance will be able to visit all of the amenities, whether that be the clubhouse, the pool, the picnic tables, barbecue areas. This is our color rendering of the master plan. It's very detailed, so I'm going to go to the zoomed in version for you all. This just gives you an overview of the layout of the site. One thing I mentioned at the public hearing that I want to mention again tonight is how green this is. This is very rare to find a site that's developed out that maintains this level of green. These developers have taken a lot of care to make sure that a good portion of this site is preserved, whether that be the natural terrain, the lakes, or the existing vegetation. You'll also notice we have all of those extensive walking paths throughout the site. The new Greenway Trail is to the north. And I do want to mention too, as part of this project, we will be doing a lake restoration project. Right now, that lake is very overgrown. It has a lot of invasive species to it. So part of this project will be to clean up that lake and restore it back to natural vegetation, which will really help with the stormwater and water quality for the site. This is just a zoomed in version of the lower half of the site. Kate did mention that we are not providing cross connections to the Shepherd Park subdivision. I do want to touch on that briefly as to the reasons why. Again, we wanted to maintain that privacy buffer for not only our guests, but also especially for the residents to the south and to the east of us. Also, the speed limit on this internal drive, these are not being designed as public roads. They are internal driveways. And the speed limit for those internal driveways is 8.5 miles per hour, which is common for campgrounds. Campgrounds usually range between 5 and 10 miles per hour. These roads are not designed for general public traffic. Kids are at play, families are at play. So if we added cross connections in, allowing traffic to come into the campground, somebody could get hurt. Also, we did not want campground traffic going into the neighborhoods. So what we offered instead was an emergency access point to the north of the site, which is up here, the very northeast corner. That will be a gated entrance, but it is available for fire and police access, and also the property owners have that code. So if there's ever an emergency on site, the property owners as well in the management company can access that Knox box and open that for the guests. That's just a floor plan of the clubhouse, elevations of the clubhouse. And I did want to go over the public benefits to the town because I do think this project brings a lot. And then I'll pull back and ask if you all have any questions. But again, we are really looking to conserve the natural beauty of this site, conserve the natural features of this site. There's limited impervious area with this development. We're only developing out 23.65%, so there's only going to be 23.65% of impervious. That's that asphalt concrete on the ground. That's an incredibly low percentage. If this were to develop out as a single-family neighborhood, there would be about 70 single-family homes there. So I think you all can imagine how much concrete would be going in with that number of homes. We're also providing a Greenway Trail extension and the construction of the major trailhead. We're providing a vacation destination for the town where one does not currently exist. I think your closest hotel may be in Nightdale. And then finally, we're adding to that Shepherd School Road, or I'm sorry, not finally, we're adding to that Shepherd School Road expansion. This just gives you a little more detail of what this developer is providing along its frontage. And finally, one of the really, really big things that this project brings is a significant reduction in traffic from current zoning. If this project were to build out as 70 single-family homes, there would be a good amount of more traffic that project would bring. Building it out as this campground RV park, we're going to be reducing those daily trips by 599 trips And then we're going to be reducing those AM peak hour trips by 36 and the PM peak hour trips by 48. Those AM and PM peak hour trips are those really busy times of the day. So we're going to be reducing traffic from what it would be if it was a single family neighborhood. And one thing I want to point out about these traffic counts too is that these are very conservative figures. These are based on if our site was completely occupied. So all 85 sites are rented. That's only going to be happening probably in the summer months. The rest of the year, the traffic counts will be probably much lower than what you're seeing there. So again, we think we're bringing a good number of benefits to the town of Zebulon. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you all have for us. Again, Roger and Ryan are here for questions as well. But thank you so much for your consideration.
Any questions, comments from the board? Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. How you doing this evening, Ms. Jennifer? Thank you so much for your presentation. This site is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's something I am thrilled and excited about. And I'm really glad for the preservation that you guys are considering for all the greenland that's here. But I do have a concern that I wanted to address, and I don't know if it's you or Kate, either one of you guys can. You both have mentioned that there will be no connectivity on Logan Creek Road. And when I was reviewing this earlier, my concern is not, and I understand the safety measure on both sides. Talking with citizens, this does sit right behind or right in front, you can actually say, of Shepherd's Park community. But when we start discussing no connectivity, my concern becomes if, God forbid, there's an emergency situation that does take place, and you had mentioned if all 85 sites were rented out at one time. Right now, the public only has access in and out of this location on one entryway. Is that correct? Is that my understanding?
An emergency, and then the owner caretaker, they also will have ability to open the Knox box entrance. So in an emergency event, the guests that are staying on site would also have an opportunity to exit the site at that northeast corner. But that would be reserved for emergency purposes.
Okay. So if they have access to that emergency, we are waiting for the person who's operating this at the time to open it, or for the fire department to show. And the reason why I want to mention that I'm concerned is I'm looking at, we still have page 77 up there. If I'm in this back area and I'm trying to get out with my camper in an emergency, I just want to make sure that we are creating as much access as quickly as possible for residents to get out. When I say residents, I mean these residents. But I do understand the safety of not having an open road coming from that development behind, because again, this is a campsite, and we want to make sure that these residents are safe. But I just want us to consider that we are creating as much entryway and exit in case there is an emergency. I just want to make that consideration. I'm just thinking timing-wise, if I'm waiting for a fire truck to get here to open that gate, what is the case that I'm able to get out while people are panicking and going in one direction?
So, not that we would be encouraging people to walk out, but they would be able to walk around the gate if they needed to get out quickly, like if it was a really, really serious situation. But as you notice, for the RV campers, there's a loop road at the bottom, so there shouldn't be a ton of backup congestion for people getting out. The campsites to the northeast of the site, those are tent sites, so people will have their personal vehicles there. That would be an easier way, less of a cumbersome vehicle to get out of the site. We did talk to the fire department ahead of time just to make sure that the flow of this site made sense from a fire perspective, and they said that it did, and that the two entrances that we're showing there are sufficient for their fire purposes.
Thank you. Yeah, those are my main concern again is just to safety. And I don't know if it's something we need to look at further in developing a road that might be north of the Greenway to provide access. But again, it's just a safety concern. I don't want to create also traffic that is going through a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood as well. So I understand those concerns, but I just want to make sure that we are considering all aspects of enough entry and exit.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Commissioner Harrison?
Kind of going with Commissioner Davis's concern for safety. I had a few citizens reach out to me in regards of safety for just the general area and the neighboring communities as well. Their concerns were more along the lines of like, how are you all going to keep the campground secure from, you've accessed it, opened it a lot for people to walk the trails and for, people to come in. So what measures are you all putting in place to ensure that the grounds are secure from unwanted guests or from unwanted guests lingering or going out into our neighboring communities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know our development team, especially our planner, put a lot of thought into the safety features of this site. Campgrounds are inherently supposed to be enclosed areas, enclosed spaces where there's not outside traffic going in and out of them to ensure the safety of the guests. Just for example, if you take a look at Google and you just type in, campgrounds, North Carolina, and you look at those campground maps, most of them look like this. They are enclosed. They don't have that public traffic coming in and out, in and out. They are gated a lot of times, which we're offering here, again, as that extra safety measure to keep the guests safe. We're also providing a caretaker on site, a property manager on site 24 hours a day to respond to any issues that may be happening. And then the Greenway Trail to the north, while the public can access it, it's not a place that they can easily then come into the campground. But if there was an issue of somebody on the Greenway Trail that then tried to enter into the campground, the caretaker would be the one to handle that situation to make sure that the guests are safe. And Roger and Ryan have been telling me all along, they are 100% responsible for what happens on this campground, and their number one priority is making sure that their guests are safe. That's why they've been so strong about not having those cross connections. Again, trying to make sure that it is an enclosed community and that they can make sure those guests stay safe while they're visiting.
Any further questions?
I have one for Kate.
Commissioner Miles?
Kate, we heard concerns of Commissioner Davis as well as Commissioner Harrison there. What is there for us planning? Is there something alternate that has been presented to the developer as well about a road up north there? If there's something else that has been presented? Options?
Yeah, so I'm going to borrow your slides real quick. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad about always scrolling through a million slides. So I do want to point out that there is this 2-lane median divided roadway that is going to be running to the north of the site. It does not go through the site, but it does run north of the site, and it connects over to this road right here, which right now is escaping me the name of it. Tippett, thank you, Tippett Road. And so that will help to provide that cross connection over from the east part of town over to the west part of town. So that is one way that connectivity is playing a role. I don't think that Shepherd's Park is planning to stubbing into that because there is a river between, or a stream between that and the future road, but there is going to be a road that goes through just north of that site. But with our UDO, we do require cross connection. So if a residential development were to come in on this site, we would require the continuation of Logan's Creek Drive and Logan Canyon Road. Whoever named those roads named them too similarly, but would require that connection so that serves as a means of other access to people who live in Shepherd's Park. And so just to provide a little context to our recommendation, that is why our recommendation is what it is that with any other development, there would be a requirement of having that cross connection, being a public cross connection to provide that access, because those roads, when they were being built and stubbed, that was the future intent. So, yeah.
If I can respond to that, just to provide a little context from our perspective of why we're not going north. Get back to a good slide here. As Kate mentioned, we do have Beaver Dam Creek to the north of us. So to have our internal driveway go all the way north through the site and connect to an eventual Tippett road extension, which may or may not happen. I'll talk about Tippett Road in a minute. We would be having to basically plow a road through sensitive riparian wetland areas and go right over those. That seems counterintuitive to the purpose of this project, which is preservation. Also, Tippett Road, the way that it's drawn on the map today, I don't want to say anything horrible about engineers or plans, but a lot of times those lines will get drawn without any studies ahead of time about the topography and whether or not those roads can happen. To build the Tippett Road extension in the future, if that were to ever happen, again, you would be going straight through very environmentally sensitive lands. Again, it was counter to our project, wanting to do preservation, but also, again, not wanting to open this property and this campground up to public traffic, given, again, the concerns about keeping our guests safe. I did want to point out as well, with Tippett, or not Tippett Road, I'm sorry, I can't remember if it's Logan Creek Drive or if it's, let's see if you can see it on that. In Shepherd's Park subdivision, there is an existing north-south road in that site. So if the goal of cross-connection is to give the residents of Shepherd's Park subdivision north-south access, they already have it. So this would have been a duplicate road north-south. Again, not adding to any connectivity because that connectivity already exists, north-south. And the concerns about connecting the existing Shepherd's Park subdivision road across Beaver Dam Creek is the same concern on our property. There were a lot of topography, environmental features that just did not make sense to us, providing a north-south connection, in addition to all of the safety concerns that we have about doing so.
So the reality is the only way an emergency vehicle could get in is coming out Shepherd Rock Drive, coming all around and going through and then connected in there.
Or going in off of Shepherd School Road. So there's two access points.
That's right.
And just one would only be open during an emergency.
Two access points with 83 different RV campers in that thing at one time, correct? Your peak hours, pretty much you're expecting to be full during the summertime. That's going to be your peak clientele. You're expecting to be full camping.
Yes, 50 RV sites and 35 probably personal vehicles, yes.
Could I talk to the chief as well? Chief, I can get your subject matter expert as well, please?
Which chief?
Chief Fire.
Chief Fire.
Yes, Chief Fire. Chief Perry, thank you. Got it.
We've coined a new nickname.
Rock, paper, scissors. I think I lost.
Got you covered. They were stated to talk to you already. I would like to hear your expertise in the public forum. What exactly your thoughts are on that?
Sure.
We greatly appreciate it.
Sure. The availability to be able to come in from either direction is extremely helpful. Considering that, fire apparatus, a lot of times we unfortunately block the road. So if wherever we come in, we typically block it. So that having another way that people can egress, we find it to be very, very effective that way. Unfortunately, we have a lot of developments that, especially older developments, where there's one way in, one way out. You may recall Pineview subdivision, as an example, only had one way in for many, many years until the town required some connectivity. So those are less than ideal. What you've got here is a situation that does have two means of egress, where fire apparatus can come in, it still leaves a way for other people to come in, or fire apparatus can come in either way. So from our purposes, what they have proposed is acceptable.
Okay. Can you explain how that lockbox would work if you guys were called out?
Yeah, so the key box, the Knox box, which is the brand we use, we have a secure key that enables us to gain access. Typically, you see it to buildings, like to get in the front door, to keep from damaging their doorways and such. But we also use them to access gates. For example, a self-storage facility may now allow us to get into the gate without having the key. We don't carry a key ring of 150 keys. We carry one key, and it opens up everything. So what she's referring to is access to that lock through that key system that enables us to get in without any delay.
So would that affect your response time in any way, pretty much?
So there's a little bit of a delay versus just an open driveway, but it's very minimal because the first truck opens it up and then it's accessible by the other ones coming. So yeah, there's probably a few seconds of delay, but it typically is manageable.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Davis?
Okay, so full disclosure, I'm not from the town of Zebulon. I am a city girl, so I've been camping twice.
From Zebulon.
And we're talking 30 plus years ago. I'm sorry, I'm going to continue to ask questions. My mind still is set on safety measures, and Commissioner Moss, thank you for asking this question because those were some of my concerns as well. But Commissioner Harrison, when she asked a question about keeping the residents on this site safe, and you mentioned the caretaker, can you explain to me the roles that a caretaker would have for this? And the reason why I'm concerned, like I said, I've only been camping twice, and I've never been camping where it's backed up behind a residential. On page 77, what's exciting about this is what I'm noticing, and also here in my presentation, this has a pool and a clubhouse and ponds and trails. And I'm going to be honest, if I lived here, I'd be excited to try to get access to this as much as possible. If there's a greenway, then I'm thinking I have access to this. And so can you explain to us the responsibilities of a caretaker to ensure that I'm assuming it's one caretaker, would be able to cover the responsibilities of keeping this site clean? I'm assuming that's what their other job is, and safe. Yeah.
So the caretaker is the official person that is there 24 hours a day. That does not mean they're the only staff on site. They're just the ones there overnight to make sure if there's any situations that arise that they will be dealt with quickly. Again, we want to be good neighbors too, so we're not disturbing the surrounding neighborhoods. For example, during the busy summer months in particular, or June and July and parts of August, we're going to have probably 10 other staff members on site, making sure that the grounds are maintained, the toilets and showers are working, helping with manage all of those things that you just mentioned. So when there are peak times, there will be more staff on site. Also, Roger and Ryan have already thought about, grounds maintenance. Those folks will be coming in, making sure the grounds are clear all year long. Probably plumbing services, things like that all year long too. So even though we have a caretaker, I want to make that clear, that caretaker is really there for that 24-hour service, but during the day there will be other staff people present to help with those concerns.
And so when campers come on site, I'm assuming they will have some form of maybe cell phone usage, somehow they can contact, if there is an emergency, they can contact? Yes, absolutely. On a whole different note, can you explain, just for the public's understanding of the entry and how that works?
And I may have Ryan come up here because I think he did a much better job explaining this than I can. I'll let him explain the gate system and then how far in the RVs pull so that they're not backing up onto Shepherd School Road, because I know that was a question to make sure that RVs are not backing up.
So this is probably the best view there, but as the campers come in, well, first of all, with the kind of how the industry is going, like a lot of the check-in stuff's going to be online ahead of time. So they'll get all their check-in information, the gate code sent to them, basically prior to arriving on site. We'll still have employees at the clubhouse for check-in for the customers who need help getting to their site and whatnot, but all that will kind of be set to them ahead of time. So they'll come in, we'll have one entrance right here, and then it'll split into two different lanes here prior to the gate. So they'll drive up, arrive at the gate, punch in the code that we gave them ahead of time, and then the gate will open, and then they'll proceed to their respective campsite. So the advantages, I lost the advantage of having that double lane is if somebody comes in and they I don't know, deleted their text, they don't have the code, they'll be able to, they might get stuck at the gate, but in which case the employee will have to come, help them get in. But there's that one free lane that will be open for, the people who have the code to get through.
Can you talk about how far we set it back to, just to make sure it's not backing out onto Shepherd's Ford?
Yeah, I don't have the exact dimensions here, but I believe there's kind of, you can kind of from scale see the size of an RV, and I believe like 2 could get backed up in each one of these lanes, and then there'd probably be 2 more additional ones, on the single lane there. So, yeah, the worst case scenario that we can get 6 RVs in, before. But I think I'd have to look back at the traffic numbers, but, and figure out exactly how many are coming in, but kind of, the chance of 6 kind of getting stuck is very slim.
So we are looking at also there will be a widening on Shepherd School Road as these campers are entering into. So they are pulling out of the main, if you can explain.
So as part of the Shepherd School Road widening project, we're going to be adding extra lanes. The nice thing is, because the other side of Shepherd School Road is not done yet, the extra lane we're adding can serve as a decel lane, basically. So as these campers are coming in, they're going to be able to pull into that decel lane and slow down as they turn in. So they're not going to be causing any traffic issues on Shepherd School Road. And then, like Ryan said, once they enter the site, there's a good amount of space between when they turn in and the actual gate to help with any backup that happens.
My last question, and then I'll leave it alone. For a little bit of fun, because again, I've never been camping, can you please just briefly explain a yurt and glamping?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually
I know what that is, but I want them to make sure they know. But I don't know, but I really don't know what a yurt is. I'm sorry.
Yurt it's a hut. It's an enclosed hut. It usually has a hole at the top for ventilation, but it's for people like me who are scared of bugs, and I want to stay in something that has an enclosure with window screens. So that's what a yurt is. Again, Roger and Ryan were trying very hard to provide a variety of camping types for folks for their different comfort levels, and these also will have different price points too, to make sure that there's a price point for everybody. But yeah, the yurt is in that upper left corner there. It kind of shows you it's this little hut that's raised above the ground, which is also good for keeping bugs out.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that y'all had something for me.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments?
One last question. Approximately or on average, how many jobs will this bring to our community?
I think probably peak time summer would be about 10. So, yeah, we'll have landscaping crews that are on maintaining the site throughout the year. But
No, sir. I'm good to go.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Is there a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have any other comments from the presenter, staff? Any
No
other
additional
questions?
comments. I'm just getting to the motion. There we go.
Motion.
I hereby move.
Go, Quinn.
Go for it. I hereby move to approve ordinance 2025-10 for the rezoning of 1800 Shepherd School Road, CZ 2024-03, as presented or amended, finding that the request is not consistent with comprehensive land use plan and the standards in section 2.225.j of the UDO.
Yeah, and just to note, sorry, it's PD 2024-03. Sorry, that was my fault.
PD, say that once again, please.
It's a plan development, so it's
Yeah,
PD
PD.
2024.
Sorry, that was
PD.
my fault.
Perfect. That amendment, so moved, PD 2024-03.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
that good?
Good.
No further discussion. We have a roll vote. Commissioner Baxter,
Approve.
Commissioner Miles,
Favor.
Commissioner Davis,
Favor.
Commissioner Clark,
Favor.
Commissioner Harrison. Motion passes. Thank you. You ready for recess? Yes. 10, 5?
5.
5-minute recess. Reconvene. Next, UDO legislative text amendment updates.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. Since this packet was presented at the September 16 joint public hearing, this presentation will be slightly quicker. Now, as in the joint public hearing on September 16th, town staff will be presenting a packet with 4 different topics. And between each of the 4 topics, there will be an opportunity for staff to answer questions from the Board of Commissioners. So with that said, let's begin. Tonight, town staff will be presenting requested legislative updates in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. Now, the reason as to why this is being brought forth is because recently there have been changes made within Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General State Statutes. Now, simply put, the updates that will be presented today is for the town's Unified Development Ordinance to come into compliance with the changes that have been made within North Carolina state law. Now, as I mentioned, the requested legislative updates are to comply with changes and updates that have been made within Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General State Statutes, as you see on the slide over here. Now, these are the review standards that the commissioner should use with regards, should look at with regards to deciding whether to approve the packet today. The first topic that I'll be presenting on is with regards to connection to public water and sewer. Now, the request is the addition of new language for properties to not connect to water and sewer. And to add a little more context, the state of North Carolina provides municipalities authority to require developed properties to connect to public sewer and water. Now, these changes would allow property owners to have the connection, these changes would allow property owners to have the option to not connect to public sewer and water with certain criteria that must be met. Now, currently in our UDO, properties that are within 1,000 feet of an existing public water and sewer line are required to connect to these systems. Now, properties are not required to connect to public sewer and water if the cost to install an on-site wastewater system, such as a septic tank, is cheaper than connecting to the public sewer system. Likewise, properties would not be required to connect to the public water system if the owner's connection to the water system will not generate water pressure that is equal to the average of connected customers within a quarter-mile radius of the property owner's point of connection. Now, some alternatives for these property owners that meet these criteria are septic tanks for sewer and water wells for water, and those would both be permitted through Wake County. Now, as you see highlighted on the screen here, this is what the language would look like within Chapter 6 of the town's UDO. And this is the same language that would be under Section 6.14.2 in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. All right, town staff will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments from the board? Hearing none.
Now, the second topic that I'll be presenting on today is with regards to the additional use type of sports wagering in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. Now, as we all know, sports wagering has become legal in the state of North Carolina, and in March of 2024, North Carolina legalized wagering on sports, but with significant restrictions on where and how that activity can occur. Now, currently, there is no sports wagering use type in the UDO, and to make this clear, this requested use would not allow casinos within the town of Zebulon or anything of that nature. In fact, this law limits betting between 2 types of locations, the first being sports facilities and the second being places of public accommodation. Now, the new statutes defines sports facilities to include NASCAR tracks, hosts of major golf tournaments such as Pinehurst, and home facilities of professional sports teams of the highest level of competition, such as Lenovo Center. I have to get used to that change. And the new statutes defines places of public accommodation as venues where in-person wagering is offered. Now, a sports activity where this activity can occur is at Lenovo Center in Raleigh, where the Carolina Hurricanes play. and sports wagering would not be allowed in Five County Stadium because the Carolina Mudcats are not a Major League Baseball team. Now, the requested update is to add sports wagering as an accessory use to the primary uses, and town staff used the zoning classifications of the primary uses of coliseums or arenas and the second of race tracks, because these were the only two sports facilities and places of public accommodation that are applicable to sports wagering that would be applicable to sports wagering within the town of Zebulon. Now, we as a town are trying to be proactive to add this use type using the state's rules and regulations, just in case there's a future applicant or developer who's interested in adding sports wagering to the town of Zebulon. Now, highlighted here, this is where the sports wagering accessory use type will be added to on the accessory use table in the UDO. It would be permitted under heavy commercial, permitted in light industrial, permitted in industrial campus. It would be a special use permit under heavy industrial. It would be permitted under downtown periphery, and it would be allowed in planned development districts. And this is the highlight here is the section that refers to sports wagering, that is referring to the sections of the rules and regulations of sports wagering in the North Carolina General State Statutes, which are sections 18C-901 through 18C-928. All right, that concludes the presentation for the second topic, and now town staff will be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, continue.
The third topic that town staff will be presenting today is with regards to triplex and quadplex standards in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. The request is to move the language of triplex and quadplex in the multifamily design standards section to the design guidelines section. Now, to add a little context, the North Carolina zoning statutes already prevented local governments from regulating building design elements for 1 and 2 family dwelling units. Now, recently, the update to Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes expands the scope to include triplex and quadplex dwellings. Now, with this change, local governments cannot impose restrictions on building design elements on residential structures with up to 4 units. Now, currently, the UDO has residential design guidelines that are proposed as suggestions for ways to ensure that new single-family detached, single-family attached, and duplex housing is high quality, aesthetically pleasing, and provides a variety of living options for residents in the town of Zebulon. Now, these design guidelines act more as recommendations for architectural designs for single-family detached, single-family attached, and duplex units. This differs from the design standards section because these are for mixed-use commercial and multifamily architectural design requirements, meaning that they are required to follow those rules and regulations. Now, the triplex and quadplex units that are currently governed under the multifamily design standards, this means that they are required to follow the town's architectural design standards. And with this change, triplex and quadplex will now be moved to the residential design guidelines standards, which is optional and serves as an incentive and would not be a requirement. And highlighted here, these are where the triplex and quadplex would be moved within Chapter 5.2.1 in the town's UDO. And that concludes my presentation for the third topic, and town staff will be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions, comments from the board?
Yeah,
Commissioner Baxter?
I just want to make sure that I understand that this is also encompassing the voluntary compliance, so it's not just a move to a different section. It's going to be changing the verbiage from compliance to voluntary compliance.
Yeah, so currently it is required that they follow standards. and now it will be voluntary. So they can opt into it, similar to single-family dwellings that we see meet those for different incentives such as density or to meet our utility allocation policy.
So they'll still have to meet the utility allocation policy, which means that they're still going to have to go above and beyond the UDO in some respects, or not, just because they're triplex and quadplex?
So just to clarify, so with our Unified Development Ordinance and our utility allocation policy, the utility allocation policy is only applicable when both the extension or increase in intensity of water usage is present, and that there is a development that is not classified as infill. And so what infill is development where you have a single lot that you're just placing a new residence on, whether that's single family or a duplex. And so in those cases, utility allocation is not applicable. I think we allocate the full 60 points in those cases. But if this were to be within a larger development, like let's say a larger subdivision wants to put in duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes, they would have to meet the utility allocation policy, which one of the items that is an incentive to get points, right? So I think you get 5 points, I think, for meeting the design guidelines. So that's just one of the incentives. And then as well, we do have density incentives that reflect if you meet our design guidelines, you can have a little bit smaller lots and more dense development.
Okay, and so this is a change that has already been made to 160D through the state legislature? Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the fourth and final topic that town staff will be presenting today in this packet is with regards to the perpendicular parking standards. Now, the request is to modify the minimum width and depth for perpendicular parking spaces in the town's Unified Development Ordinance. And to add a little context, these changes that were made within Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General State Statutes helps clarify that zoning ordinances may not require parking spaces that are larger than 9 feet in width and 10 feet in length, with the exception of handicap, parallel, or diagonal parking. Now, currently in the UDO, the width of perpendicular parking spaces is 10 feet, which is larger than the 9 feet width requirement within the Chapter 160D update. And the length of the perpendicular parking spaces is currently 19 feet in the UDO, which is just a little shorter than the 20 feet requirement within the update in Chapter 160D. Now, the requested changes is to decrease the width of perpendicular parking spaces from 10 feet to 9 feet and increase the width from 19 feet to 20 feet to comply with the new changes within Chapter 160D. And as you can see here highlighted on the minimum width under perpendicular parking spaces, the 10 feet is crossed, the 10 feet minimum width is crossed from 10 feet to 9 feet, and the 19 feet in the minimum depth is crossed off to 20 feet to comply with the updates within Chapter 160D. And this chart here, as you see on the bottom right side, under perpendicular spaces, the width is from, as you see, that used to be, the one highlighted in red used to be 10 feet, and town staff changed that from 10 feet to 9 feet to comply with the changes within Chapter 160D. Okay, that concludes my presentation, and now town staff will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, comments from the board? Thank you.
These are the review standards that the Board of Commissioners should use when deciding whether or not to approve or deny this packet. And the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval at the September 16th joint public hearing. as they agreed that this packet was appropriately fitted with the standards of section 2.2.21.g of the UDO, which are the review standards that I showed you guys in the previous slide. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2025-11, finding that the proposed amendment is consistent with the standards of section 2.2.21.g of the Unified Development Ordinance.
Is there a motion?
I hereby move to approve ordinance 2025-11, finding that the proposed amendment is consistent with the standards of section 2.2.21G of the UDO.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Davis? Discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter?
In favor.
Commissioner Miles?
Favor, sir.
Commissioner Harrison?
Favor.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Davis? Motion passes. Thank you. Next budget amendment.
All right, we have added an IT director, and historically, IT budget has been under the administration budget. Now that we have an IT director, we would like to separate out all the expenses dealing with the IT services so that we can track easily what's being spent, what our needs are, and what our goals are. So the recommendation is that we would adopt ordinance 2025-12. We're not asking for any additional money. We're just moving it out of administration and putting it into IT.
Any comments from the board? Questions? Commissioner Miles?
Just to hear from the IT director herself, kind of her thoughts and process on it, if you would, please.
Everyone. I'm excited to be here. As I stated previously, I am in total agreement with what we have. I think that not asking for additional funding at this time and trying to make sure we stretch our funds across IT to support the town of Zebulon is probably the best route for us to take at this stage. However, I would like you to consider as we move in that direction, if things come up as I'm still learning, I think this is like day 51, that we are able to come back and possibly have an amendment if additional funds are needed at that time. Thank you.
Board, the IT director, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-12.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Miles. Discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter?
In favor.
Commissioner Miles?
Favor.
Commissioner Harrison?
Favor.
Commissioner Clark?
Favor.
Commissioner Davis?
Favor.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, so the next request is a request to appropriate funding. When we announced that we had hired an IT director, one of the things that was mentioned by this board was that we really needed to still consider hiring an IT specialist to assist with the duties of the IT director. So we are bringing forward to appropriate funding for an IT specialist for half a year beginning in January of 2025. And, you know, if you have questions for the IT director, which I'm thinking you're going to.
Correct.
She'd be happy to answer anything that you've got.
Questions?
Just like to know the thoughts from the IT director on that.
Well, thank you. Well, one of the things I wanted to really highlight in the asking for an additional person in IT One, that will help lay the foundation for what's needed currently. However, I will say that possibly may not be enough. What I have learned is the town of Zebulon is amazing. And we are considered a small town. However, we have grown, and we may be a small size, mid-size, but we are grown. And the thing is, the IT needs for the town of Zebulon is just the same as a larger community. So for a person to be on board with us, what that would allow is I can't do vision, support, and security all at the same time, and connectivity, which all those are critical for our community. And so right now, the focus is security and connectivity. So how do I keep us secure, and how do I keep us connected? So here, one of the things is we still have issues with connectivity as it relates to internet. So how do I have the ability to research those options so that we're able to support those needs for the employees so they can actually do the work? If they can't work, that means they can't support the community. And the other thing is, how do we stay safe? As you know, advancements in technology is changing daily. And ransomwares, I'm not sure, I think Commissioner Baxter spoke on Cybersecurity Month earlier. So one of the things is a small town is primarily one of the places a hacker will check to try to hack for ransomware. Ransomware has been rapid lately, and my goal is to hopefully have someone on board to assist with the planning and laying the foundation while we're trying to move forward with innovation to also keep us safe and secure as it relates to our infrastructure, our hardware, software, all of those things. So that is the request that we have on the table tonight. Thank you.
Any questions?
So
for the
we're
director?
looking to add a position that was outside of what we budgeted for.
That position from January to June.
And where are these funds going to be coming from? And where will that leave us with our percentage of general fund balance?
That's going to be a question for your finance director.
Okay.
It would be a minimal change to it. I think it's 40-some thousand is what this total would be, which is minimal. Next month, we'll present the audit with audited numbers as far as the actual fund balance percentage. But this would be, this won't even move the needle.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2025-13.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Harrison.
Favor.
Commissioner Miles.
Approve.
Commissioner Baxter.
Approve.
Thank you. Motion passes. .613 and 615 Pierce Road annexation.
Good evening. Sam's really upstaging me. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. I'm going to do a quick presentation on the annexation for 613 and 615 Pierce's Road. So currently, this property is it's two different properties. The applicant is Wakeland Properties, LLC. The property address is 613 and 615 Pierce's Road. The PIN numbers are 27060381169 and 27060372225. And so this connection would be in order to get access to Raleigh water. The acreage total for both these lots is 1.87 acres. So public hearing signs were posted, mail notices were sent out. It was posted in the newspaper, on the town website. So this is a current map of where our corporate limits sit and where our ETJ sits. So as you can see, Our corporate limits are right next to these two lots, and it is within our ETJ. So the annexation standards in section 2.2.2G, whether it has owner's approval, whether services can be provided, whether there are any debt obligations, whether it meets the guidelines for public health, safety, and welfare. So staff recommends approval of the proposed annexation and the adoption of ordinance 2025-14 if the board finds the standards of section 2.2.2.G are met. And the applicant is here today if you have any questions specifically for him.
You want to hear from the applicant?
Has anything, he has anything he wants to say? The applicant? Okay.
Okay.
I'll extend an offer.
Thank you.
With that,
Any other questions, comments from the board?
I'd like to make.
Are we ready for a motion?
No. This is a public hearing item.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So I got to open it up for public hearing. Public hearing is an opportunity for the public to express their thoughts and ideas, concerns and opinions regarding proposed requests. Board of Commissioners staff and the applicants will not engage in dialogue at this time. If the public has questions pertaining to the annexation request, please contact staff, town staff, or the applicant following the annexation public hearing. So we are now, public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this project? Come to the podium. This project, yes. You have to come to the board, come to the podium, state your name, address, please. Hello.
This is my first time attending one of these meetings. And the reason is I live at 701 Pierce's Road, which is right next door to the property that Chuck wants to be annexed. I have no problem with the annexation. My concern is because that land sits higher and I slope, I won't guarantee that there will be a sufficient buffer between that property on the back side that you look into my backyard and my back door and my deck. And is that possible?
We can't answer questions. We'll take your comments and questions in consideration and pass them on to the appropriate staff, and hopefully someone will get back with you with an answer. Okay. Did you state your name?
Cheryl Duke Wallace.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me. Cheryl Duke Wallace.
Anyone else in favor of the project? Anyone would like to speak in opposition of the annexation? Hearing none. Anyone who would like to speak neither for or against, or just have something to say concerning the annexation? Hearing none. I declare the public hearing closed.
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor.
Is there a motion?
I hereby move to approve ordinance 2025-14 for annexation of Wake County Pen 2706038169 and 2706037225 into the Zebulon corporate boundaries, finding the standards of section 2.2.2G are met.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrison. Discussion. Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter.
In favor.
Commissioner Miles.
Approve.
Commissioner Harrison.
Favor.
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Davis. Motion passes. Thank you. One 1616 McTodd Road. Staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So this is a annexation request that is brought before you, and it's an annexation of the property that you saw at the joint public hearing for rezoning. And so the way that we're going to be voting on this tonight is that first we will see the annexation, a public hearing will be opened, and then a motion can be made on a determination for the annexation. And if you choose to do the annexation, then we will move on to the zoning, which if you annex the property, then you have to assign zoning, so that will be next, and you will vote on the zoning at that time.
Once again, I missed part of it. Say it again, please.
Yeah, so this is the annexation portion of the rezoning that you saw at the joint public hearing back in September.
Okay.
And they need to, if you approve the annexation, then zoning needs to be established. And so if you don't approve the annexation, we won't establish zoning. But if you do approve the annexation, then zoning will be what follows.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this property, the applicant is Seth Huntsinger. Property address is 1616 McTodd Road, PIN number 17945727009, and it's 2.78 acres. Public hearing signs were posted, mail notices were sent, newspapers were sent out, town website, and the email list. So this is a map of our ETJ, which you can see in this light pink color. Here, I'll just do the mouse. It's a little easier than that. Light pink color right here. The dark red is our corporate limits. The dark green is Wendell's corporate limits, and the beige is Wendell's ETJ. So you may be wondering, why are we annexing this? So this is in our future growth area, and so we have an agreement as stated by our future growth area that says this property will become Zebulon's if it were to be annexed. So that is why we're going through the annexation process tonight. So the following standards are what you have to determine whether this project meets. Does it have owner's approval? Can services be provided? Are there any debt obligations? And then whether it's in the interest of the public's health, safety, and welfare. So staff recommends approval of the proposed annexation and adoption of ordinance 2025-15 if the board finds that the standards of section 2.2.2.g are met. So now I will take questions, and then after the questions, we'll go into a
Is this not a public hearing as well?
It is, yeah. So
Okay.
once questions are asked, then the public hearing can be
All right,
opened.
thank you.
Other questions, comments? Public hearing, annexation, public hearing. This public hearing is an opportunity for the public to express thoughts, ideas, concerns, and opinions regarding the proposed requests to the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners staff and applicants will not engage in dialogue at this time. If the public has questions pertaining to the annexation requests, please contact town staff or the applicant following the annexation public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the annexation? Come to the podium. State your name and address, please.
My name is Seth Huntsinger. I am the owner of 1616 McTodd Road, and we would really love to have some clean drinking water.
Any questions? Does anyone have any questions for?
We can't ask the question during public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the annexation? Hearing none. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the annexation? Is there anyone who wishes to speak neither for or against, but just have something they would like to say about the annexation? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed.
I'd like to make a motion. I hereby move to approve orders 2025-15 for the annexation of Wake County Pen 1794572709 into the Zebulon corporate boundaries, finding that the standards of Section 2.2.2G are met.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Well, no, I'm just kidding.
Commissioner Davis. Favor. Commissioner Baxter.
Favor.
Commissioner Harrison. Favor. Commissioner Clark. Favor. Commissioner Miles. Approved. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now it's the zoning. 1616 MacTodd Road rezoning. Staff?
Yeah, so as previously discussed, now that the property has been annexed, zoning must be assigned. So this presentation is just to go over what that zoning, what zoning is being requested, and then you guys can make your determination. So 1616 MacTodd Road rezoning standards, section 2.2.25.J, whether it meets the public's health, safety, and welfare guidelines, whether it's appropriate for its location, whether it's reasonable and within the public's interest, any other relevant factors. So the property, again, applicant is Seth, as you just heard from him. The property owner is Seth Huntsinger. The property address, 1616 MacTodd Road, acres 2.78. Current zoning is, it's in a Wake County zoning, so it's an R40, which is a residential zoning district in Wake County. And then the proposed zoning is for residential suburban, which is R2. It occurred back in September. Notifications were sent out at that time. The current zoning, so it's currently within the Wake County's jurisdiction, the R40, and the future land use for this site is rural residential, which is a future land use that is designated for that residential, more rural character. Again, just to go over the standards one last time, 2.2.25.J of the UDO states whether this meets the intent of the public's health, safety, and welfare, whether it's appropriate for its location, whether it's reasonable and within the public's interest, and then any other relevant factors. So Planning Board unanimously recommended approval for RZ 24-02 for 1616 MacTodd Road, finding that the standards of section 2.2.25.J have been met and the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 2025-16 for 1616 MacTodd Road, finding that the standards of section 2.2.25.J have been met and the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan.
Any questions, comments from the board? Is there a motion?
I hereby move to approve ordinance 2025-16 for the rezoning of 1616 MacTodd Road, RZ 2024-02. As presented, finding that the request is consistent with comprehensive land use plan and the standards in section 2.2.25.J of the UDO.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll vote. Commissioner Baxter.
In favor.
Commissioner Miles. Favor. Commissioner Harrison. Favor. Commissioner Clark. Favor. Commissioner Davis. Favor. Motion passes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So we have two items to update you on. One is the holiday event, and Interim Assistant Town Manager Chris Ray will do that, followed by a joint update from the chiefs in terms of the assistance we're providing to our friends in Western North Carolina. So, Chris.
Thank you, Ty. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Would like to give you an update on the parade committee's work to date. As I recall, and many of you attended, so we appreciate your attendance. We had the open house on September 11th. Goal there was to meet our organizer and hear feedback from the community and what their objectives were. The meeting was well attended with 30+ people. In addition, we received 26 submissions online, so we got a very good feedback, so we were very excited about that. Give you a little bit of overall view of the feedback we got. Clearly, we want to make youth a priority of this event. Preference was for local crafts instead of commercial floats and stuff like that. They wanted to see a more local interest involved into it. We also got very positive feedback about the new proposed route, so that was encouraging. Anytime you change anything, you always worry about the potential feedback. One of the things we also heard is we wanted grand marshals. We also wanted announcers to be included too, as the children or event activity comes up, to announce who they are. We've always found that to be very good, and the kids really enjoy hearing their name and their group being announced as they approach. Clearly, being in the Christmas season, music and dancing and entertainment was clearly a large part of the support we heard for the event. And if we did need to limit the amount of participants due to the shortened route, maybe we could limit the cars or motorcycle groups and stuff. But clearly that was by no means to eliminating them from the event. So what we've been doing since September 12th, we reviewed all the feedback we received. We've been focused on time-sensitive elements such as securing Santa. You know, we can't have a parade without Santa. We have secured a public announcer, and Ms. Honeybeth Wiggs has agreed to make that, do those announcements for us. And as we well know, she's will do a very good job for us.
Who is this?
Which one now?
Honeybeth Wiggs.
For what?
For the public announcer. So as events come into a public area and all, and we'll announce and all.
Okay.
We have secured co-grand marshals. One of the things that we had was be kid-focused, which would be Zebulon Elementary School, Wakeland Elementary School, and Zebulon Elementary School will be co-grand marshals. The chief and I have spoke extensively about traffic control measures. We have secured all the necessary traffic control measures we need to put this event forward, move this event forward. We've also secured bleachers for the performance areas. So if we have children, as we all know from previous events, the areas where there are performing areas is generally crowded, so we're going to try to facilitate that with some bleachers. We are currently developing and reviewing the registration and guidelines. We have a draft of that. It's currently in review with our attorney. We have issued a date, save the date for the Christmas parade as December 8th at 2 p.m. So we're moving forward with that. So what do we expect in the next coming weeks and all? Finalization of the registration and guidelines with our goal to be in the next week to release online registration. We continue to seek performers and entertainment elements. Our event sponsor, our event coordinator and staff have been working closely with local schools trying to encourage bands to be participant, as they're a big part of the parade and creating that music theme we wanted to do. One of the things we'll also be finalizing is we're looking at the coordinator providing DJs, so maybe at different locations along the route where we can provide Christmas music. We're looking at alternative staging methods. As you know, Community Park can be a challenge to a large parade, so we're looking at other alternatives there to make possible. We thank you tonight for approving the resolution so we can continue our coordination efforts with NCDOT. Clearly, we'll be starting a public outreach campaign to notify our downtown neighbors and people along the parade route about detours and the event of the parade that could possibly have an impact on them. Clearly, then, we're going to be turning this program back over to Caleb to go out and promote the event and notify citizens the expected closures and the coming event. We begin the process of releasing volunteer signups. We've got a lot of people that signed up at the event. We'll start reaching out to them and looking at what the possibilities and the things they signed up for that they could do part of this program. And then we'll continue to coordinate with those people throughout the process to whether they're being a parade organizer at a spot or a volunteer that's helping our kids in our community get back when the parade ends on Wakefield Street back over to Arundel Avenue. And currently we're going to be leaning heavily on our community to help us with getting the word out, getting people that are interested in the community to participate in the parade and stuff. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, comments from the board?
Yeah.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes. One for me, Chris, the key thing, as an avid motorcycle rider myself, been there for a while, you're saying limited motorcycles. How would that work? And what process are you using to, like, say, I have this number, whatever it may be, we're only going to allow X amount of motorcycles?
That's the piece that our attorney and I was working on now through our guidelines and stuff. It's not our intentions to restrict those, but if the parade did come too large, there was an area we would look at. So we want to make sure our registration process clearly outlines that we have the right to do that.
I'll voice my concerns there. Before, that was a tool that was used to leave certain people out of the parade. So I just wanted to make sure we don't use it, that we exhaust all means to make sure if they're put in there that we have that, because that has been a tool before that has been used to write some people out of the parade. So I just want to make sure that.
That is definitely not our intent. That's one of the reasons we're looking at alternative staging potentially on East Barbie Street and stuff to accommodate those larger groups. So we're going to do everything we can to make this an exciting, fun-filled parade and make it all inclusive, especially those of Zebulon.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Sir.
So are you going to release something so that if anyone else would like to sign up for a volunteer slot that they can, and when can we anticipate that?
That when we release the online registration, a part of that will be for additional requests for volunteers. So like we said, we hope to release that by the end of this week. That's our goal. Hopefully things will continue to move smoothly and we can release that registration and call for additional volunteers. Clearly, anybody hearing to us tonight speak and have this conversation, if they're interested, please reach out to the town, whether it's myself or Director Sheila Long. We will get you in touch with an opportunity to volunteer and participate in this parade.
Chris, did the route change?
Yes, ma'am, we have reduced our route. It is a little bit shorter than it's been in the past, and that is to, as we have grown the route we have, and with the intersection of Gannon and Arundel, our town is really not set up for a parade. So the parade route will start at basically the Zebulon Community Center, and staging will be at the community park. It'll go north on Arundel Avenue. When it gets to Sycamore, we'll make a left on Sycamore, go down West Sycamore to Wakefield Street, make a left on Wakefield Street, and end at Barbie Street.
Is that map available online?
Yes, ma'am. When we actually put everything online, there will be a map on that so people can look early where they maybe want to stage, where they want to be meet their groups to look at different events. So yes, ma'am, we'll have that as part of the registration.
I think it's 0.9. It's not even a mile long, I don't think.
I understand.
It's not even a mile long.
Any other questions, comments?
And so when we do things like signing up for things like cars that want to be in the parade and motorcycles, we're going to be making sure that the focus is still that these folks are local, and
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we're not having like a car club from Raleigh, because I would rather not see that. I would rather that if someone's going to participate, that they're local to our.
Priority will be given to Zebulon area for all entries.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We need to do that, but I don't think you need to make that turn.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
Just wanted to give a bit of an update on the public safety response to Western North Carolina. I'll first start out just by commenting that I personally have been through both Fran and Floyd as a first responder, And both of those storms pair in comparison to the massive coordinated response that is working in Western North Carolina. I've not witnessed anything like this in my 28 years of law enforcement in North Carolina. On Sunday morning, we received the first of many emails from local law enforcement in Western Carolina asking for assistance. And at the time, the plan was still kind of in the works of what that response was going to look like. But within a matter of 24 hours, a very concerted effort came together. We had officers volunteering to go before we even knew who all needed help or how bad the situation was. So in those first couple of hours of receiving requests, we marshaled a team of 3 staff members that it was made up of a command staff member, a captain, one of our reserve officers, and a detective. But they were asking that our teams be larger. At that time, they were looking for 10-person teams, and so quick text message to Wendell and Rollsville, and we had a 12-person team ready to go in 45 minutes or so. So they left on Wednesday afternoon and responded to Hendersonville, North Carolina, where they worked. They got there Sunday night, and they worked all day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and a half a day. No, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and a half a day on Friday. The officers were conducting traditional law enforcement response. They were answering 911 calls. They were directing traffic. They responded to quite a few disturbances. As you can imagine, the folks in that area without electricity and water, after 3 days, tensions started to get high even amongst neighbors. And so several of the calls that they responded to were in long lines for gas and for food. In addition to relieving the Hendersonville officers so some of them could tend to their own families and housing concerns because of the damage they sustained, they also supplemented Hendersonville officers. So unfortunately, some of the communities were experiencing looting and theft, and so they needed additional boots on the ground. So at times they were taking over for Hendersonville so their officers could be relieved, and at times they were working side by side with them. In addition to the traditional law enforcement response, they also handled some door-to-door in neighborhoods to ensure that residents were okay. I put an email out last Friday before they had left to the entire staff asking who would like to volunteer for the next tour. And 2 of the first people to answer were 2 that were out there. They desperately wanted to be able to go back and continue their help out there. But I had half the department volunteering to go, and so we're taking turns. It is important for us to ensure that our community does not suffer because of us sending our resources out to another location. And I do want you to know that our decision on how many, who, and when was very conscientious and considerate, and we're making sure that our community doesn't recognize a change in the level of service that we're offering to them. So that means, like you heard me mention, a reserve officer or a command officer. Those are individuals who wouldn't typically be working patrol and don't count towards our minimum staffing numbers. And as we gear up the next group who are going, they leave on Wednesday. We will have 3 sworn and 1 civilian to be going to Catawba County, also for 5 days. We've taken steps to ensure that staffing can remain as it has been over the last couple of months. And that means training has been canceled or assignments have been changed. So I just wanted you to be very informed about the way that we're making the decisions on who to go. The last thing I wanted to comment on is the Chiefs, the North Carolina Chiefs, adopted a mantra very early on. It's one team, one mission. And that's what this North Carolina response to Western North Carolina is all about. Thank you.
Could you speak to what we are providing as far as stress-related mental health? Because in these tragedies and storms, you get to see things that you've never experienced before. And just to make sure that we're taking care of the folks that's been exposed to this tragedy.
Thank you for asking that. You're right. The stories that I'm sure y'all are seeing on Facebook and TikTok and hearing in the news, it's stuff that you've heard me say before, that the average police officer will experience over 800 critical incidents in their career when the average citizen experiences 2. And these guys and gals are seeing stuff that they would not have dreamed of seeing. And so their well-being is very important to us. We are working with peer support programs in Wake County. The group who left last week and returned on Friday are scheduled for a peer support debrief on Thursday with peer supporters from around Wake County. And then, of course, we have our continued assistance that would operate with our own peer support program and our neighboring peer support, but we also have licensed clinicians who are able to assist our staff if necessary.
If you can look at the fire service response, it varies quite a bit looking over the different ways a disaster like this is handled. So when the hurricane came in, a lot of the swift water rescue teams, urban search and rescue teams immediately go to action. Those specialized resources. So when you see that a lot of fire departments, especially local fire departments, Raleigh has as an example, has a very big USAR presence. Nightdale, for example, is a big part of the swift water. So there's a lot of these very specialized resources. They rolled out the door almost, in some cases, before hurricane arrived. So they were pre-staged for such an event. So that's one face when you see fire departments going to help. Another face you typically see is where a geographic area needs a specific resource. Maybe they need an engine company or a ladder company or a tanker group. And so you staff that vehicle and you send that vehicle. That was going on in many, many cases. To give you one example, just as Chief Boykin described, the Asheville Fire Department was just, in a word, spent a couple days into this because their employees had just been working endlessly. So they took all of the Asheville Fire Department employees and sent them all home. Not left a skeleton crew, but they sent people from Cary and Raleigh and Rocky Mount to completely staff that fire department. So I just give you that to give you a flavor of different people doing different things. So the last part I'll talk about relates closer to us. So a request came in a couple of days after the hurricane for 20 firefighters to go to Mitchell County, not to bring resources, but to bring their people. And the intent is the Mitchell County area, they're primarily a volunteer fire service, but it was the same idea as what I just described in Asheville. These people were working tirelessly to save save their community, and they weren't doing anything at home. They didn't have time to go take care of home. So for us, obviously, 20, we got a lot, very much like what Chief Boykin just described. One of our entire shifts said, we all go. Send us all. And we honestly, as much as we'd love to do that, we can't do that and keep our area covered. So we pulled one person from each shift, which is very manageable for us, to replace those with part-time employees, replace those with volunteers, what have you. Those 3 went with 17 others from other towns and fire departments in Wake County. So they went to Mitchell County for that first primary purpose of providing fire and emergency services so those people could just get a break. As you can imagine, about 2 days in, and so our staff goes again with all those other, for the team of 20, they slept in a middle school gymnasium for a couple of nights, but then those people come right back. They go home, they take care of home, and then they come right back. So our staff is still there. Those 20 all together are still there. They've been the hands and feet of that community, unloading tractor trailer loads of supplies, just whatever is needed. For example, when they get a phone call that says, hey, there's a resident, they need this, they need that, but they're not able to get out, then our crew will help load that up and they'll get it to their home. So they've been doing work like that. Thank goodness now they've moved up. They're residing, if you want to use the word residing, in a FEMA base camp right outside of Spruce Pine, to give you some geographic. So that's all on the Tennessee, North Carolina border. But that's where our guys are at. They've been doing that every day, just wherever they get sent. And at the same time, if they're out delivering supplies, they're carrying radios, and they hear a fire department have an emergency, they'll divert to help those guys handle the emergency, and then they get right back on task. So that's what Zebulon Fire has been doing as part of a much bigger process. The guys that are up there now have been there since last Wednesday. They'll come home this Wednesday. We're sending 3 more of our employees, same idea. One from each shift, actually one from 2 shifts, and then one of our part-time employees is going. They'll relieve those that are up there. They'll come on back home. So, and then they'll stay. So our total commitment has been a 14-day commitment to the county of Mitchell County, the Spruce Pine, I think it's Bakerstown, Bakersville, that area of the state. So that gives you just a little flavor of what we've been doing, very much like what Chief Boykin described. So,
Any questions for the chief? Comments?
I'm out there as well. So Friday was one weekend for these departments, and we got a mass email from the Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh saying that the volunteers had slacked off a little bit from the beginning of the week, and it was a desperate call for additional folks to answer up. And I say that because I think it's important for our community to understand that this is going to go away from the news in a little while, and we'll stop talking about it, and we'll stop seeing it on our feeds and such, but the need is still going to be there. I foresee us helping agencies in Western Carolina for another 4 or 6 weeks. And so while we may not be designated as a disaster area, we are absolutely a resource for that community. And you'll see me back up here within the next 2 or 3 months because we're blowing through our overtime budget. Our overtime budget, we probably expended somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 with the last team to go, and $4,000 or $5,000 with every team to go. That's going to be a lot of our budget in about 2 months. So just wanted to make you aware and have it on your horizon. Oh, and that is refundable by FEMA. I think that's important. Realistically, we'll put in for reimbursement from FEMA. We probably won't see that for 3 years or so, but it'll come to us eventually.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Maybe I can speak a little bit. So on Friday and also today, I spent some time with our firefighters and our officers, their respective locations, just to kind of appreciate them on behalf of the board, but also to hear directly from those who were on the ground. it's incredible what's happening, and I'm definitely very proud of our team. And thank you for allowing us to be able to do this. Like the chief said, this is going to be on us for a little bit. But we are our brothers and sisters keepers. And we will continue to do this for as long as it takes, but also understanding that we also have to make sure we're keeping our home front protected and covered as well. So if anything changes, we'll be back to update you as well. But thank you for your support.
Thank you. Board comments? Commissioner Baxter?
Yeah, actually, no.
You all right?
I just got a tickle. Sorry. Does somebody else want to go? I don't know what happened.
Take your time. You get paid by the hour.
Apologies. So, to piggyback off of what the fire department and the police department have said, geez Louise. This is something that is going to be our response in Western North Carolina is going to be something that we need to not forget about as the days and weeks continue. And just as Chief said, things are going to start disappearing from our feed. That does not mean that the situation is over. There are lots of people right now that are jumping up to do everything they can to support our families, our friends, our loved ones, our fellow North Carolinians through this devastation and disaster. But we have to remember that this is not a sprint, it is a marathon, and we are going to need to make sure that we spend our resources wisely. So while we are right now wanting to send every bit of toilet paper and water that we can find to Western North Carolina, we want to race up there and help. I've said this before and I'll say this again. It's okay to hang on a little bit and see what the needs actually are as these communities get a better handle on what in fact they do require to be able to move forward. In addition, what people aren't talking about, but what we is a very, very true reality is that we have thousands of people displaced right now. And so what we need to consider and what we as Zebulonians maybe can put into our hearts is that these displaced families in some instances will not be able to return for a very long time, if at all. And so if there are any of you out there that have a finished garage, a living space that you might consider welcoming a family into as they try to get back on their feet, it's not something that I would say, yes, this is the direction that we need to go as a town. But if you have that capacity, the need will arise. Right now, Charlotte is inundated with displaced families. And they are starting to move because there just aren't the services for them. They are starting to move east. And so in the not too distant future, we're going to have a lot of families in the Raleigh area from Western North Carolina. And one thing that I've learned recently is that we do not have adequate services to provide housing for people in emergency situations. So if that is a way that we can help, then maybe we should. If you do not have a destination for your gathered goods, please do not go to North Carolina, to Western North Carolina. If you do not have a vehicle that can handle very rough terrain, please do not go to Western North Carolina. If you do not have a place to spend the night and you will need to spend the night, do not go to Western North Carolina. And in addition, if you cannot get there and back on one take of gas, please do not take gas from the people that desperately need it right now. Please do not go to Western North Carolina and look for an aid agency for folks like, I know that our police department is collecting supplies. Please route those supplies to organizations that have the capacity to be able to travel there and back and not put any undue strain on the folks that are just trying to manage and survive up there right now. To transition, I would like to ask the planning department to begin thinking about petitioning for an extension of our ETJ. I know that this doesn't happen automatically, so if we could start thinking about that process and getting that moving so that we can extend our ETJ boundaries, that would be wonderful. And then finally, this is the month of October, and we've got a lot going on all in our area. There is a lot going on. But for Zebulon, just in this coming week, we've got Rock the Block on Friday, and that's the 11th. That's going to be fabulous, right down on Horton. And then we also will have, Epic Mighty Con, and while it is taking place in Wendell this year, it is being put on by Zebulon's very own Comic World, and that's going to take place at the Wendell Community Center from 10 to 6 this Saturday. Should be really fun. It's completely sold out, so there's going to be a lot of vendors, a lot of activities, food trucks, and so that's a wonderful, very close weekend activity. As we go further down into the month, and get towards Halloween, I would urge everyone to make sure that they are cognizant of our trick-or-treaters as they move throughout our developments on Halloween. We don't want to tax our fire department and our emergency services with any injured littles. Also, please make sure that you replace your batteries in your smoke detectors, super important. And I think that's, now that I've finally recovered my voice, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miles?
No comments.
Commissioner Harrison?
You done talked all night. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to also reiterate some of the things that are going on as we celebrate, we recognize Infant Loss Month. This Saturday from 10 to 2, Angel Prince will be having their annual 3K walk here at Town Hall.
I know.
I don't know
that it was
Jesus.
catching.
Okay.
Sorry.
As well as while we continue to send our prayers and our love to Western North Carolina, I want to also send our love and our prayers to Rocky Mount as well. They had a lot of damage. I've gone down to speak with some of their city council members and to help in ways, very minimal ways that I could. And so just continue to keep them in your thoughts as well. I want to take a moment to thank our fire and police department. 3 weeks ago tomorrow, my mom had a residential house fire where she lost everything, either by fire, water, or smoke damage. And the response that you all provided to her was amazing. Hopkins came out as well. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am for your services on that day. You never really understand, like you sit here, you hear response time, you hear all of these things, but until you're actually in the situation. And my mom called me and I was like, you have a stove fire, girl, calm down. And she twisted her camera around and showed me that her apartment was actually on fire. And it was very, very scary for me in that moment. But thank you all for your professionalism and for your courtesy to my mom in that moment, because she was in a very scary moment. So thank you so much for that. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark?
I too want to thank our police and firemen for taking on this job and helping out the people in Western North Carolina.
Davis?
I think we all share the same sentiments. Our thoughts and our prayers are with our neighbors in Western North Carolina. This one I think was a little bit more of a reality because it was so close to home. If we consider the entire state, it did hit home. So we continue to think about those that were affected, that have lost lives and lost everything. So our thoughts and prayers with them. Thank you again for our first responders and donating your time and your safety to go over there and respond to that. I would also just reiterate that I am wearing pink because it is October and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This is one that has hit home in my family in many devastations. So I would like to encourage women to show your body some love and please go get your screenings on a regular, especially ladies ages 40 to 74. And if not ladies, gentlemen, do yourselves a favor and encourage the women in your life to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thoughts and prayers to our Western North Carolina neighbors that are involved in this devastation. It's going to be a long haul. I used to live in that area, so it's very, very, very touching. Yeah, I lived in Morganton. I was covering Spruce Pines, Old Fort, Marion, all of those little towns that was affected, and it's really devastating. But we will recover with the help of everyone. At some point, we will recover. And Mr. Ray, could you give us an update on the historical markers at the Zebulon Elementary School? What is that?
Masonic Lodge.
And the Masonic Lodge also, yeah.
Yes, sir. I am happy to come back to and report to you that we, approximately 10 days ago, did get our NCDOT encroachment agreement. The signs have been installed. I have reached out to Wake County Historical Preservation, and we will be coordinating a little ribbon cutting, photo op opportunity. And clearly, all the commissioners here and staff will be invited. But so we look forward to having that day of celebration. But some good news: they are up. They're standing proudly, and I thank my staff for getting that done. And apologize that unfortunately it took us a little bit of time to get through NCDOT and get permission. But they're up and they look good.
And,
Awesome.
and I also would like to make sure that the alumni, James E. Shepherd Alumni Association, is informed about any future ceremony or ribbon cutting with the Wake County Historic Preservation and any other historic preservations nonprofits that are in our area. Commissioner Miles?
That's what I was going to get into as well. Make sure the Masonic people of our, because I have got requests trying to figure out when they were going up. So now that they're up, we can do that. Make sure that those people are informed that they are up.
Make sure we reach out comprehensively to our whole community, make sure they're involved in when we do get that planning. But yes, we are excited that they're up and a good addition to our community.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Any other last minute comments, questions?
I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.